Good evening, Dr. Landau.
Good evening. Hi.
Now, it appears that deadlines in the Iranian nuclear negotiations are essentially meaningless, and that now the P5+1 countries and Iran looks like they're going to extend these talks into next month. Does this surprise you?
No, it doesn't surprise me. I was actually here 2 weeks ago, and that was my assessment at that time, that most likely there would be an extension, and I also thought that there would be some announcement of pockets of agreement that they had reached, maybe a framework, maybe some principles, maybe a few issues. And it seems, according to these recent reports, that is exactly what they're working on in these final hours to try to get some common ground that they can announce to the world that they've reached, so that they've made some concrete progress,
Well, in fact,
and that they need the extension.
Outline for us, if you can, what are the main obstacles to reaching an accord, and where has the progress been made?
Well, that's an interesting question. According to some assessment, there's 95% of the issues they've already come to agreement upon, and there's only that 5% of thorny issues that they still need to resolve. I would say it seems to me that it's more likely the opposite. There might be agreement on 5%, 95%, which are the most important issues. There's no agreement on them. And it's dismantlement of centrifuges, how many centrifuges will be dismantled. It's the duration of this deal, for how long Iran will have to abide by the terms of any comprehensive deal. It's a question of what exactly will happen to the facility at Arak. And of course, there's the issue of the PMDs, the famous, what the IAEA calls the possible military dimension. We can actually call it the weaponization aspects of Iran's nuclear program. Will Iran be confronted with the evidence of its wrongdoing, the fact that it's been violating the NPT for years? Iran refuses to discuss this in the context of the talks. It refuses to discuss ballistic missiles. So there are a lot of issues that I think are in dispute, and maybe here and there's an issue where they have come to agreement.
So do we need to look at applying more pressure? I mean, the economic sanctions on Iran remain in place, but do you think that they should possibly be ratcheted up if there is to be any movement on Tehran's part? Or maybe it's now time to put the military option back on the table?
Look, I think pressure needs to be kept on Iran, and I think it needs to be increased. I think that's pretty obvious after a year of negotiating, two deadlines that have now come, and it seems that the second deadline will also be passed. Now is the time, even according to statements that were made at the beginning of this process, if there's no progress that's made, if we see that we can't reach the deal that we want to reach with Iran, then we will step up the pressure. Kerry said so, Secretary of State Kerry said so, President Obama said so. They said they would work with Congress to get better sanctions in place. I think now is the time to put that pressure in place. It's pretty clear that if Iran doesn't come to the conclusion that the pressure is such that moving to a deal is better than continuing on the current course, there's no way that they will agree to a deal that comes anywhere near the deal that the international negotiators have put already on the table.
It certainly seems so. Well, the next month will be interesting. Dr. Emily Landau of the Institute for Strategic Studies, thanks so much for being our guest this afternoon.
You're welcome.